Hey everybody, it's Bob Crossan, Senior Managing Editor for Water and Waste Digest, and as we are doing this entire month through September, we're doing some interviews with people who know our industry icon David Drake from a professional and personal capacity. So today with me I have Keith Lewringer. He's the former director of the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California and currently represents Carlsbad to the San Diego Water Authority. So Keith, thank you so much for being on the call. We appreciate you making the time.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's start. I've been asking all of the interviewees this about how did you meet David Drake and what was your first impression of him at that time?
Um, I first met David at the County Water Authority. He was a board member. I think he was representing the city of San Diego at the time.
Mhm.
He wasn't representing Rincon yet. And I was a general manager down at Otay Water District, so I attended all the board meetings. This was back in the 90s,
Mhm.
1990 to 2000, roughly. And David was one of the leaders of the water authority at the time, and took me under his wing and taught me a lot, and sort of learned the ropes from him.
Yeah, so over the years, how have you worked with him then? It sounds like you kind of work with him on boards. Have you worked with him in other professional capacities as well?
Yeah. So the first instance was on that board, and then around sometime in early 2000s, David came to me with his friend Greg Quist, and they had just started up well, they hadn't started a company yet, but they were looking to start a company.
Mhm.
And one of the things that always has intrigued me about David is he's always looking for a problem to solve.
Yeah.
Um, he'll he'll um, he'll come at something and go, I've got a solution for that. And he thinks outside the box, and comes up with an answer that nobody else has come up with. So he and Greg came to me when I was GM up at Fallbrook,
Okay.
and they said, Keith, what keeps you up late at night? What are you worried about? And I told them I had just had a really bad experience with a sewer spill and had a big fine, and I needed a way to stop sewer spills from happening.
Mhm.
And they said, okay, what are some of the requirements? And I said, well, I don't want to have to put somebody inside a manhole to do this because that's a confined space, and that means I have to
Mhm.
send a whole crew out. So come up with a way that I don't have to send a crew out, and I can get a warning so that before the sewer overflows, I can go clean it up. And the two of them put their thinking caps on, and what came out of that was the smart cover.
Mhm. Yeah, and the rest was kind
And
of history.
the rest is history. They got a great company that has prevented thousands of sewer spills around the country, and they're going like gangbusters. So, there's another instance of find me a problem and I'll solve it.
Yeah.
And that's what David, I think, has been doing his whole life.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that impression from him too. He's such a thinker. Like he's always
Yeah,
thinking about the next thing, how can I do this better?
right. Exactly. Exactly. It was an interesting story. They had already developed a smart cover, and they were working with the Department of Defense to come up with some way to monitor for radioactivity. This was at a time when they're worried about radioactive materials traveling around the country.
Mhm.
And so Greg comes to me, and I had just undergone a treatment process for my thyroid cancer, and I had to swallow a radioactive capsule. So Greg says to me, "Can we come over and see if we can test you and see if our device works. And David had invented this device that can track radioactive signals and set off an alarm like the SmartCover does. And they came to my backyard, and sure enough, they were able to. I pretty much put the needle off the chart. Greg and David had to go to the other end of my backyard before they realized that I had a pretty strong dose in me, and they were able to measure it all the way on the other side of my backyard. So there's another problem that, they looked for a solution, and David came up with the technology to solve it. Pretty slick.
Yeah. So in kind of like talking about like the qualities that he exhibits and like his inquisitive nature and all that kind of stuff, what are some things that you've taken away from him to better yourself? Like, how has he influenced you in your roles with the San Diego Water Authority and formerly as director of MWDSC?
Probably the most important thing that I learned from David is be prepared in your deliberations. Read everything that staff prepares for you, but then come up with some good questions. David always asks these questions that I don't know where he got them from, but they were very good. They were to the point. They made you think, and they got something out of staff that maybe you wouldn't have gotten by just reading the staff report. That's what I like about David. Is he's always thinking ahead, and he just wants to make things better for everybody.
Yeah. In your capacity working on him with boards and stuff, what's a memorable problem that you guys have solved together?
Oh gosh, there's so many. We were both involved in what in California is called the QSA, the Quantification Settlement Agreement on the Colorado River, whereby San Diego was able to make a deal with Imperial Irrigation District and get water that they had conserved. But all the parties on the Colorado River had to pretty much agree, which was a major undertaking. And we were both on the board working on that. And we pulled it off. The board and the staff worked together, and the QSA became reality. And San Diego has a secure water supply from Imperial Irrigation District. That was a lot of fun working with David on that.
That sounds like a lot of coordinated effort. Holy cow.
It was. I mean, you got all the 7 basin states as well as all the parties within California, and it took the Secretary of the Interior to close the deal, but we got there.
Yeah, that's impressive. So, maybe more on a personal level too. What's he like to you? It sounds like you've known him for quite some time. I imagine you've gotten a little bit close to him. Could you talk to him more about him as kind of like what he means as like a friend or something like that?
Well, he's a close friend. I've known David and Greg probably for 30 years now. We met in the water industry. That's how we know each other. But we've gotten to know each other personally over the years. And David just cares about everybody. I've gone through some tough times. He's gone through some tough times. And he always will reach out and make sure you're okay and ask if he can help in any way. Definitely is a religious man, and I appreciate that. It shows. He just cares about people and trying to help people and make their lives better.
Yeah.
And that's what the SmartCover company is all about.
Mm-hmm.
Help people do their job easier and better and save money and stop sewer spills.
Yeah. I feel like when you have a quality like that, it just naturally bleeds into the work that you do, right?
It does. It does. It's such a pleasure to work with David because he just cares. I guess that's the quality that I like about him the most. He just cares, and you can tell when you're
Yeah.
talking to him. even if you're not, even if you're just meeting him for the first time, after you've been with him for a little while, you realize this is a man who cares about other people and what they're going through in life, and wants to try to figure out a way to help you with any of the problems you might be having.
Yeah. So you say that
Neat
this
friend.
sorry, go ahead.
Is just a neat guy to have as a friend.
Yeah. So you mentioned like the caring nature of him is something that it's probably your favorite aspect about him. Is there an aspect or characteristic of his that you try to bring into you? Like say that he does this one thing and you wish that you could be better at that. So you try and exemplify that by using him as your model?
Um, probably not. David he's the quintessential scientist, and he's always, when I visit him at the office, he's always got some sort of a contraption on his desk, probably a circuit board with alligator clips attached to it and little lights blinking. And he says, I'm working on this problem over here, and this is a new antenna that I'm working on over here. And I can't fathom doing that kind of stuff. I mean, he is the quintessential scientist, and I'm not. I'm more of a all around kind of guy who negotiates with other people and tries to get people to reach agreement on stuff. But I don't come up with out of the box kind of ideas like he does, and I
Mhm.
really appreciate him for that.
Yeah. Well, one of our previous interviewees was saying, he's kind of like a rocket scientist, and he actually is. That's what he went to
He
school
he,
for.
he, actually, he is a rocket scientist. Yes.
Yeah. So why do you think that David is deserving of this title, industry icon? Obviously, we thought that he was, given the nomination for him and speaking with him, but why do you think that he deserves that title?
Well, he's devoted much of his adult life to water and wastewater issues. He's been on the board at the Water Authority representing multiple agencies, which is unusual. He and I and a couple other people have represented more than one agency over our span on that board of directors. So that shows that more than one agency thought this is the right guy to represent us when he moved from one location to another. But um, I'll go back to that the aspect that he just is constantly looking for ways to help other people solve problems, whether it's a board of directors, a big board like the Water Authority, or a little board like Rincon, or his customers at SmartCover, or other employees at SmartCover who might come to him and say, I wish we could do this with our hardware. And David goes, let me noodle about that a little bit. And in a week or so, he comes up with an idea to solve the problem. It's just amazing. And I don't do that, and I don't know if I can, but I really appreciate that he can.
Yeah. Well, it's people, you need people like that in an industry to accelerate it and
Absolutely,
push it to
yeah,
the next level, right?
yeah, absolutely, and that's what I appreciate from David.
Yeah. Well, Keith, thank you so much for talking with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure to get to know you a little bit, and definitely get to know David a little bit more through you.
He's well deserving of this honor, and to David, congratulations. You really deserve this award. You've done a lot over your career to help many people in the industry. And I, for one, really appreciate all the effort you've put in. Congratulations.